Good afternoon. Kevin Fallon joins me today, and Kevin is the founder and co-founder of FlexMedical Solutions. Tell me a bit about your background and upbringing. What was that like?
So I guess I'll start where I'm from. So I am from a quaint little town in South Lanarkshire called Larkhall. You might have heard of Larkhall. It's more infamous than famous, but actually I really enjoyed growing up there. So, really good people there, as grounded as you could possibly get. And I no issues regarding, my upbringing. Mum and dad, I am very much a working class family unit. So dad, painter and decorator, mum, factory worker. Dad only stopped painting and decorating when he was about 73. And it was COVID that stopped him. And my mum, she was in factories until probably early 60s. So I was very much brought up with, and from the perspective that if you wanted something, you went out and you worked hard to get it.
What was it that got you interested in life sciences? Was it purely manufacturing crossover into Stirling Medical from Thales, or was there anything else that you were trying to do?
It's quite interesting. So when I was at Thales, I became aware of a business called Inverness-Medical, who were making blood glucose test strips. And I don't know what actually it was that attracted me to Inverness-Medical, but I'd always kept an eye on them. And actually, I guess I also knew a couple of people who had moved up there from the manufacturing sort of sector in the Central Belt. And I'd only ever heard good feedback. I did consider for a period, I've considered going up for an interview at one point with Inverness. I ended up not going because it just didn't feel like the right thing for me at the time. I didn't want to relocate. And then I became aware that the Inverness Medical team, or the ex-Inverness Medical team, because during this period Inverness Medical became LifeScan J&J. And I became aware that the founding team were starting a new business in Stirling called Stirling Medical Innovations.
Okay.
And that immediately got my interest. So I was keeping a little eye out for openings at Stirling Medical, seen one that suited me. I was really working in kind of supply chain and procurement at that time. Went for the job and got it.
How did you get interested in business and the business of diagnostics, as opposed to, say, continuing in a corporate organisation or whatever? What was it that sparked your enthusiasm for starting what you're doing now?
So I had always had that niggle to have my own business at some point. I was never, if I'm being honest again, I was probably not that precious about what that business was going to be, but I knew within myself that my journey was going to involve running a business for myself. And I actually fed that back. If I look back at some old sort of performance appraisals that I have and I've maybe kept over the years, I referenced it really, really regularly. And Stirling Medical was a very, very, very unique business. And that it was the first time I'd worked somewhere where there was equal focus on the people as well as the product, or the business element, turning a profit. So that was really, really interesting. It opened my eyes up to the people business, and a real focus on kind of learning and developing and being the best version of yourself and all that sort of stuff. But I found it particularly useful because it really made you think about what your own future was going to look like. And at that stage, through those years of Stirling Medical, which became Alea, as you pointed out, I started to the kind of fire inside me started to burn a bit more in terms of, I need to do something for myself. And then it was entirely opportunistic, Ewan. So I was holding the baby essentially when the orders came in for Alear Technologies Stirling to be closed down. There's a much bigger story attached to that. This was just part of Alear then getting ready to sell to Abbott, and I took that opportunity to cement my own future, I guess. Use the redundancy funds to buy bits of equipment and apparatus. My wife would have much rather had a nice big house and maybe a fancy holiday, but I said, I'm sorry, we're buying a screen print and a dryer.
Tell me about how you came across Murray then. What was the story there? We'll maybe get him on another day, but your turn just now.
So I'd love to say, I was going to make something up, like I was helping some prison with some courses in English or something like that, and I bumped into him as a resident. But no, so Murray joined Stirling Medical about 2 months before me. So I think I joined in August of 2005. Murray had been there, I think, maybe for a month or so, and he was a former employee of LifeScan, so of Inverness Medical. Murray had a lot of experience already in diagnostics, very much in the kind of engineering, in the process engineering, the process development and the product development. So I'd worked with Murray for 10 years at Stirling. We were a couple of the last guys standing, and we, as soon as I suggested, starting a business, or spinning out's not the right word, but I guess a phoenix from the Stirling Medical flames. Murray was very much on board immediately. So I asked a few people, canvassed a few folks in there, but it was zero hesitation. Murray was in.
He was straight in there. So what was then the idea behind FlexMedical, and what's the mission?
The company's vision is, and I firmly believe this, our vision is to become the diagnostic contract partner of choice. And we've said that for many years, and we firmly believe that, FlexMedical, or a future version potentially of FlexMedical, will become that business. It will be the go-to business in this area, as a contract developer looking specifically at the disposable element of the test. So that's what we want to be as a business. And going back to the kind of point you mentioned about being in an industry that's quite easy to get behind the purpose. The purpose there, of course, is to create healthier outcomes. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more high quality, good, reliable tests on the market where they're required, and essentially helping, both people personally by getting better health care, and also economically, because the hope is, of course, that it helps, the health economics around the world to take that burden away a bit. So it's first and foremost become that number one player, and then obviously you get this wonderful piece for free, which is you're helping individuals get or remain healthy.
What was your biggest challenge in the early days when you first started going? What did you have sleepless nights about? I'm assuming quite a lot.
Yeah, you have sleepless nights about a lot. I mean, it's I would imagine most of the folks who've asked that question kind of say the same stuff. From a very personal perspective, you go from having a very, very good salary to having zero salary, and you're spending, the money that you've saved, you are spending pretty quickly. You see that going down, that brings stress, of course. From a business perspective, we were looking for premises. Premises were a real challenge for us. I personally didn't feel that we got enough support from, let's say, local authorities or government. Our offering Yeah, again, that's not to say we didn't get help, because we did. In West Lothian, to be fair, one of the reasons we're in West Lothian is because they were more helpful than, several of the other authorities that we spoke to. So, yeah, the guys at Business Gateway way back in the day in West Lothian were actually, really good to deal with, and helped us with a number of things. So we settled in West Lothian. The premises definitely was a real pain for a while. And then of course, you generally, when you start a business, and it's just a totally different mindset. Going to work is very different, because going to work for me was going upstairs. So it was kind of pre-COVID, but it was very much an enforced working from home. So I commandeered one of the bedrooms, and that became my home office. So there's a lot of, even at that level, and there's sacrifices that not just you make, the family make. The kids make it.
Yep.
Your partner definitely makes it. I mean, my wife's been phenomenal, I have to say, through the this whole kind of 10 years. Very, very, very important, because that keeps you sound up top, actually. So I don't. That's a big thing.
What became the biggest issue once you became established? Once you got to that point where you were kind of, confident that the building blocks were in place, everything's kind of going in the direction, and never obviously straightforward, but in the direction that you want it to. What then becomes the biggest issue, or maybe perhaps what's the biggest issue now? It might be there.
So there's a couple of really obvious answers to that, which are probably across any business. So if you're speaking at a generic level, people. So I'm sure you've heard this. I'd be astonished if I was the first person to answer that question with people, and that's because as you reach, let's call it a kind of critical mass, the dynamic of the business changes. And you do need that to change. You need a broad. You need to have lots of different types of people, let alone skill sets, but actually individuals in your business to really make it a success, I believe. But it does bring with it challenges, because personalities don't always marry up too well. Expectations are not always the same. Generational impacts, and unfortunately I say that's somebody who's approaching 50, but it's you've got that. That's been a big factor, actually. Certainly and I think COVID, but now you've got me really thinking this. COVID, as a diagnostics business, as you'd expect, COVID gave us some benefits, okay, but it's also given us, I think, as a society and as a business, we're no different. A lot of challenges as a result. You can really start to see, I think, some of the damage that COVID has done. I'm pretty certain if you asked that question, actually, what would you do? Kind of what's been the headaches? I'm sure if you ask government, they'd probably take some lessons as well from how COVID was managed. If you look at, let's consider COVID period as being managed by a business, there's a lot of learnings in there, and a lot of things I think they've done differently. But and I think that you go back, and I say people as well, that's across the business, from staff, relationships, with leadership teams and management teams. There's always stuff you can learn there.
So what did you guys do to get out there and put yourselves on the marketplace, put yourselves in front of customers and so on? How did you do that?
So we were probably slightly unique, and not unique, but we certainly had we took advantage of our network. Right. I would say that to commercialise in the first instance, we leveraged our network massively. So the first 3 or 4 contracts, maybe even more than that, certainly the first handful or couple of handfuls of contracts, when I say contracts, that sounds a bit grand, purchase orders that we secured, they came from people who knew us. So I like to think that Murray and I and the other guys that were involved with a good reputation as people who knew what we were doing. We got on well with individuals who had also gone on to do different things, or people who we'd met as part of our day jobs at Alea, even with some sister companies and the like. So we really leveraged that. So one of the other co-founder we had was a guy called Michael Fallon. I actually should mention Mikey. So Michael and Murray and myself all co-founded FlexMedical. Mikey really quickly realised that this startup thing and entrepreneurship wasn't for him. And at the time when he dropped that bombshell, Murray and I were absolutely gutted, right? Probably took the huff for a bit, but then Mikey went off and joined another diagnostics business, and as the years go on, you start to realise this takes a certain type of person.
Who externally to the company has been the most important influence / contact / support for FlexMedical and you guys in your growth?
So you're right, we haven't had any investments. We're a debt-free, self-funded business. We've done it the old-fashioned way, and by that I mean we've done work, we've made profit, we've reinvested the profit. So that's been the story for 10 years. Looking back, we're very proud of that. We're very proud of that. Could we have done stuff differently and might have accelerated the business? Possibly, in hindsight. But, no regrets. But, you're just looking back and saying there could have been different directions we went in, but certainly I don't regret any of the decisions that we've made. But I think probably speaking to a lot of people who have obviously gone down the investment route, it's a challenging route itself as well. So it's not that bootstrapping's hard and investment's easy, and it's not investment's easy and bootstrapping. So I think there are just multiple ways to get to your end point. We've chosen the self-funded, self-financed route, and it's worked pretty well for us in terms of who or what kind of entities have been the most helpful. Again, I'd get back to some of the helpers, if you like. Some of these guys who've just given us a little bit of support through premises, or maybe even some of the guys I mentioned who we worked with previously who might have helped make our initial orders a bit easier to come across. So there's, you're relying that as well. So obviously the emphasis is then on you to do a good job for these folks. So it's not, you're not getting anything for free, but you, in fact,
but support to get a start, is it?
Yeah, you get a start, and you really put a lot in it to make sure you don't let these guys down. You definitely do.
If you had the opportunity to go back and give yourself advice on the journey you've been on, what would it be?
I'd definitely be saying to myself, make sure you've got a strong foundation before you get down this path. Because if you don't, the building will crumble, frankly.
The cracks are going to be exposed.
I would definitely say so. I think I definitely know myself better now, and again, if I was going back, I'd probably create a different success plan. So Murray and I, and this isn't a regret actually, we were often asked from day one, what's your exit strategy? And I'd go, here we go again, this exit strategy question. And we used to answer it, do you know what? We don't have one. And that was shock horror to some people. And I get investors need to know your exit strategy because that's where they get the return, obviously. But for us, it was more about, we just want to make a success of this. Is that an okay answer for now? We want to make a success of it, do our best with it, and actually the rest will take care of itself. The time to exit or retire, as it might end up being, or whatever it is, well, that will take care of itself. If we can build something that's really good, great. If we still enjoy doing it, Brucey bonus, and the rest will really take care of itself. You will attract the right people and the right levels of interest if your business merits it.
What is the plan for the future of FlexMedical?
So again, I'd probably go back to kind of, the vision, which is the ultimate plan, is to be that number one partner for diagnostic point of care development and contract manufacture. In order to realise that, we need to grow. Obviously, we need to grow into or expand into different territories. And that might mean expanding just by getting more customers in a certain area. It might, in the longer term, mean physical expansion, which would be nice in the future. But certainly, for now, it's about growing the business. It's about growing revenues. It's attracting new clients, and it's doing a good job.